Okay, start over here. So on Monday, we started the Mayim Rabbim, and we explained that when the Navi says, when Shloimy says that Mayim Rabbim leichul Shabbos esavo, that the great love is not able to extinguish, the great waters are not able to extinguish the love that a Yid has to the Eibishter. So the Alter Rebbe explained that the Mayim Rabbim refers to Tirdas HaParnasa, refers to the troubles of making up Parnasa. And even though that Tirdas HaParnasa is very strong and very difficult, and the challenges as a person, nevertheless, it's not able to extinguish the love that a Yid has to the Eibishter. And the reason is because the love that a Yid has comes from the neshama, and the neshama is Yishpoyedish Be'esh. It's a very, very high level. It's a natural level that just like the nature of fire wants to continue to go up, so too the nature of the neshama, even when it's enclosed in this world, the nature is to continue to go up. And the Alter Rebbe explained that not only does the Mayim Rabbim, the Tirdas HaParnasa, not hurt a person, but on the contrary, it elevates the person to even higher madrega. And he explained as well that the Mayim Rabbim is also called Mei Noach, the waters of Noach, because just like we asked the question, why are you calling it Mei Noach, the waters of Noach? L'chayr, you should call it Mei Amabel. And the Alter Rebbe explained that Noach is like resting, which means it causes a certain nachas ruach, it causes a satisfaction to the world. And the idea of Parnasa is as well that it elevates a person to a higher madrega. And then the Alter Rebbe explained that when a person thinks after a full day's work that even all the ashba that he has, all the gashmistic ashba, comes from only ha'ara, which that ashba is also ha'ara, he'll realize that he doesn't even have the real thing, and he's only going to want to have the Eibishter mili b'shamayim imchalei chafatzti. So, and then we explained the idea that the Mayim Rabbim is like Yisna Ur Mitecha Cheshech, that when you have Dafka, when you have the Cheshech, then you can have the true level of B'chol Meidecha. We're holding the line, the first paragraph by Tess. The line starts with Nefesh HaBahamis. Bahainu. The last word on the line. Bahainu. So the question is, how is it possible for the Nefesh HaBahamis to bring the Nefesh Alikis up? How is it possible? So he says, V'hainu l'fisha b'shorsha l'mayla shesh ha'nefesh HaBahamis koveh yosem m'chines Nefesh Alikis. Since the source of the Nefesh HaBahamis is really higher than the Nefesh Alikis, so like it says, Ve'ela ha'malachim asher molchu l'fnei malach melech l'bnei Yisrael. The pasuk says that there was kings. The clarifies who the kings were. Edom were, which they were descendants of Esav, and the pasuk says these are the kings who ruled lifnei malach melech b'nei Yisrael, who ruled before b'nei Yisrael, which means that the kings, which refer to the Nefesh HaBahamis, they come before melech b'nei Yisrael, before the Nefesh Alikis. Shu b'chinas Nefesh Alikis. So what happened? Rak Shaydei Shviras HaKelim, through Shviras HaKelim, because of Shviras HaKelim, which ensured there was a great or, there was a tremendous amount of or into the world, but the Kelim couldn't handle it. So what happened? It broke. It was Shviras HaKelim. That Shviras HaKelim, those Nutzutzas came down into this world. And that's where the Klippa gets its chayis. As the pasuk says after about these kings, Vayimloich, says they ruled, and then it says Vayomis, they died. So, what do I see from here? I see that the Shadish, the Nefesh HaBahamis, comes before the Nefesh Alikis. It's just that the way it comes down over here, it's lower. As the pasuk says, Vayimloich ruled, then it died. How did it die? By Shviras HaKelim. Avol b'sharsham, but really the root of the Nefesh HaBahamis, and the Maila Nefesh Alikis is really higher than the godly soul. Well, therefore, Gam even when it comes down into this world, Yesh Lahem Tikbeides, it has a certain strength, al nefesh alikis, over the godly soul. Why? Again, because the shadish comes from the level of melucha, kingship, which is just like a king. He's elevated, he's higher. So too, the nefesh habahamis, its source is from the level of melucha, of which means that he's uplifted, he's separate, he's higher. So not only is the source of the nefesh habahamis higher than the nefesh alikis, so even when it comes down over here into this world, it has an advantage, it has a strength over the nefesh alikis. The Alter Rebbe says, "V'gama adam," also the person mekabel chayus mipchinas behemis. A person gets his vitality, gets his source from animals, ma'acholim, and from food. Ubeladam, without behemis and food, einam yechedim lichyes. We cannot, we can't live. However, there's 4 levels. You have daimim, semeach, chai, medaber. The daimim, which is the inanimate, doesn't need anybody. Doesn't need the semeach, doesn't need the chai. The chai needs the daimim. And the behemah needs the chai and the daimim to live. And the adam needs all 3 levels. Now, the famous question is, Chassidus asks, if adam is higher than tzemeh chai medaber, so how is it possible that we get life from it, that we get source, we get vitality? And the answer is because the shadish of daimim, tzemeh chai, is really higher than the person. That's why a person needs them. Because the source of these 3 levels, are really higher than the neshama. Through it descending and enclosing the nefesh alikis, but nefesh habahamis through the nefesh alikis, and the nefesh habahamis getting together. Taf galasik b'tidus machshavas haparnasa. B'yam gashmim shein nikrei Mayim Rabbim hanal. Dafke when the nefesh alikis encloses itself in a person, and he has to deal with the struggles of making a parnasa, which we explained are called the Mayim Rabbim. Then he can come to the level of b'chol ma'idecha, shehu bli gvul kanal, which is an unlimited love, shehi medarga hayoser gavoya, which is even a higher level than before, miyoser koydim yididasa beguf, even before it comes down into the body. So by having the Mayim Rabbim, by having the Tidus Parnasa, and the neshama comes down into this world, dealing with the Tidus Parnasa, not only does the neshama not get affected, but the neshama is elevated. What does that mean? Through dealing with the darkness, which we explained, this is the advantage of the light. So the Alter Rebbe explains the source is really higher than the nefesh alikis, but it went down lower. As we explained before, by the iskafia. So what happens? Through working with the nefesh habahamis and the nefesh alikis working together, naseh tchias hamesim. What happened? So we explained that Edom, which is the nefesh habahamis, there was kings. Then what happened to these kings? Vayimloich, they ruled Vayamas and they died. What does that mean? Vayimloich, there was Eretz Tetoyu, and then Vayamas, there was Shvir Sakelim. So how do you make Tchias HaMesim again? How do you re-elevate these sparks? How do you bring them back to life? The answer is through Iskafia, through dealing with the nefesh habahamis and elevating the nefesh habahamis with the nefesh alikis through the Tidus Parnasa. Zel Mayim Razal. This is what the Razal say. Yofa sha'achas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim. That 1 hour of tshuva ma'asim tovim ma'olam hazeh mikol chaya elam haba kanal. So Mishnais in Pirkei it says, it's brought down many times, that 1 hour of tshuva ma'asim tovim in this world is greater than elam haba. Why? Because dafke in olam hazeh, dafke in this world, a person can come to a higher level. Because in the Elam Haba, it's only a ziv. In this world, a person could get the atzmus. So therefore, you offer shachas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim. Well, so therefore, we're holding those who came the daf tes on the right hand side, the last paragraph, the second line, lozeis. And therefore, nikro Mayim Rabbim manal meineach. Why is the Mayim Rabbim called meineach? That because there was a certain nachas ruach that was affected through the mabul shenasa mehem tevas neach. That because of the mabul, neach made a teva. Shubchinas tevas atfila, which the teva also refers to the letters of davening. I'll explain this in a second. As it says, Bo'ata, Hashem says to Neach, you come, Chobeischa in your household, elateva to the teva. The Baal Shem Tov says that Bo'elateva, teva means the ark. But teva also means letters. So the Baal Shem Tov says, what does it mean, Bo'elateva? You should come to the Oisius HaTfila, Tfila and Torah and Tfila, which means that there's a mabul. What's the mabul? The mabul is the Mayim Rabbim. It's the difficulty of making a parnasa. So we explained, the fact is that even the trials and tribulations and the hardships of making a parnasa, it can't extinguish the love that a yid has. Fine. But how do I bring that into actuality? How do I bring that into ma'aseh b'poel? So what does the pasuk say? Ba'alat teva. A person has to come to the Torah. He has to come to tefillah. The only way that it's possible for the Mayim Rabbim to, in a practical way, not affect you is if a person has Torah or tefillah. So that's what. So the Mayim Rabbim is, we said, is the Tiras Abanas is the Mayim Rabbim. How do you withstand? How do you get above the Mayim Rabbim? Is through going into a teva, which we said the teva is the teva satfila. This is what it means, that the waters are very strong. The pasuk says that the waters were so strong, they were 15 amas higher than the tallest mountain. This, in a spiritual sense, means that the nefesh habahamis is stronger than the nefesh halikis. The mayim is higher than the world, which means that the mayim ram, the tilas of Parnas, are so strong that it's higher than a person. It's stronger than a person. However, through having the nefesh habahamis, through having the tilas of Parnas, the nefesh halikis goes to a higher level. This is what it means, that the teva went on top of the water, and the teva floated. What does that mean? Through the Mayim Rabbim, which means through the Tirdas Parnasa, a person's davening could go higher. So basically, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that people, and this is Alter Rebbe is going to explain in a second, this is what the mistake that people make, that the Mayim Rabbim, the Tirdas Parnasa, the choshech that a person has, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard. Yes, there's times that a person just wants to give up. But the purpose of the choshech is in order that the person should go even higher. Like we see in the practical story of Noach, that there was Mayim, but the teva was up. The teva was on top of the Mayim, which means that in order to get on top of the water, to rise above the Tidas Parnasa, this is dafka through Ba'al Teva, through the Isis Atira Tefillah. So the Alter Rebbe v'zeu tois habale asakim. This is the mistake that business people make. Shebedaitam she'en yechen lispal kol kach. The bale asakim, the business people think it's impossible for me to daven properly. Kamei hayesh ve'elam, just like people who learn all day. So the Alter Rebbe ki adrab, on the contrary, napechu, it's the exact opposite. Shehem yechen lispal yaser. The bale asakim, the people in business, are really able to daven even on a higher level. Why? We explained the whole time that dafka through the cheshech, a person can go to a higher level. So who's the ones who are experiencing the cheshech? It's the balei asakim, it's the business people. So the business people, if they contemplate and they realize that the cheshech that they have is in order to elevate them, their tefillah could really be a stronger tefillah than the yesh ve'elim. Why? Because they have the cheshech. And this is why it's called Meinech. And this is why the Mein Neach, we call the Mabul Mein Neach, which we explained causes a Nachas Ruach, which that is the level of Shabbos. And Al Rebbe explains, the 6 days of creation, all 6 days, from the first day to the 6th day, it's all hamshachas, how the Eibishter is bringing energy down into this world. The pasuk says, the first day Hashem said, let there be light. So 6 days Hashem was creating. Now what does it mean Hashem was creating? Hashem's a person who's creating. So there's hamshachas going down over here. There's certain energy that Hashem is bringing down into this world. That happened on the first 6 days. On Shabbos, on Shabbos, there was a shvisa, which means Hashem rested. What does that mean in a spiritual sense? The worlds had an aliyah called like a person who rests from his work. So just like for the first 6 days, there was hamshachas coming into this world. And on Shabbos, Hashem had brought the worlds up. There was an aliyah sa'ilamis. So too is the tirda of making a parnasa. Through elevating the Mayim Rabbim with tefillah. So you make a nachas ruach. Shabbos, which is the level of Shabbos canal. It's brought down in Chassidus that the 6 days of creation is only ha'ara. Where does that come from? It comes from the level of Shabbos. So just to recap, what Al Rebbe is trying to say is that the Tirdas HaParnasa, not only, like we explained many times throughout the last two shiurim, that not only doesn't affect you, but it brings you up. So too, and that's the idea of Shabbos, that Shabbos there was an aliyah. So just like Shabbos there was an aliyah, the same thing with Tirdas HaParnasa, that through davening properly, a person could bring his Tirdas HaParnasa to even higher level and have a Shabbos Tato. And Achkol Zeu Shabbos Tato. This is the first level. We explained it says Neach Neach twice. Why does it say Neach Neach twice? Because it made a Nachas Ruach Lamaila and it made a Nachas Ruach Lamata. And these are the two levels of Shabbos. So we explained that the first level of Shabbos is that when the Mayim Rabbim tries to affect you and a person stays above it through Torah Tefillah, so then he comes to the level of Shabbos Tata. However, there's a second level of Shabbos. There's another level which is called Shabbos Hilah, Shuhu Mashiach Osid. This will happen when Mashiach will come. Shenikra Yom Shekula Shabbos, which when Mashiach comes, it will be called a day which is called Shabbos, which is totally Shabbos. And this is what it means, that Hashem promises never to bring a Mabul on the world, even though we explained that the purpose of the Mabul was in order to be mitayr the world. You don't always need to have a purification in the world. Mayim Rabbim Nasi Yisin Erchuli, Shubchinas Ava B'chol Meidecha Kanal, Im Kol Zeh Yesh Oy B'chinas Ava Rabba Bom L'Mayla Sh'L'Mayla Mayla At B'chinas Ava Sheba Yidei Mayim Rabbim. So we explained that even though a person has Mayim Rabbim, and the purpose of the Mayim Rabbim is to be mitayr the person, but not always does a person need to have the Mayim Rabbim. Like when Mashiach comes, you're not going to need to have the Tirdas HaParnasa to strengthen you to become a higher level. And this is what the pasuk says: with my right hand, I'm going to hug you, which right refers to chesed. This ava will be revealed when Mashiach comes. The Navi says in Yeshaya, the mountains are going to be like fall apart, and the valleys are also going to fall apart. However, the chesed lo yomush, that's never going to fall away. And the covenant of peace also will never falter. This is the level of chesed elyon. So when Mashiach comes, this level of Ava is going to be revealed. That you're not going to even need any of the Mayim Rabbim. And this is what the pasuk says over there in Yeshaya, that it says that Mashiach is going to be very high. That this level of B'chol Meidecha, we explained that through thinking that the Mayim Rabbim is here to help you, and contemplating how all the ha'aras, all the hashpah that a yid has is only really ha'ara, so that's going to cause that a person is going to have B'chol Meidecha. He's going to have an ultimate love. And the pasuk is saying is that there's even a higher level than B'chol Meidecha, and that's the second level of Shabbos Hilah, which will be in Nisgalo when Mashiach will come. So we explained so far, I have a few more minutes, but we explained so far what the first part of the pasuk is. So now the question is, what does it mean? What does it mean if a person is going to give all of his wealth and his house away for the love? They're going to make fun of him. So that's what Rebbe explains now for the next part. Before Lamaila explained above, so the Rebbe says again, he's recapping. Mayim Rabbim, I explained this Tidas Parnasa, Unahares and the rivers Shehem HaMachshavos Bin Yonim Gashmim, which are the thoughts that a person has in Yonim Gashmim. Shenikro B'Shem Nahares. The Naidi Ba'azi, they're called rivers that flow. So the Mayim Rabbim is the Tidas Parnasa. A person's worried about Parnasa, but worrying doesn't mean he's always thinking about it. He's worried. Doesn't mean you're thinking about it. Some people just don't think about it. It's better not to think. But Naharis Leish Tafua means that the Mayim Rabbim, the Tidas Parnasa, you're constantly thinking about it. However, when you have stagnant water, that's in one place. And we're saying what do we say? So the Rebbe says, Hein Beisei is Nikra Chachmas HaTorah. When the pasuk says Hein Beisei, that refers to the Chachma of Torah. Shein Pirish v'Taim HaMitzvos, which what is the Chachma of Torah? Torah is explanation of mitzvahs. Which the Chachmas, which Taim HaMitzvos is drawn from the Chachma of Hashem. As the pasuk says, there's a river flowing from Eden. The Hashkes is Agan to water the Gan. So you have three things over here. You have Eden, you have the Gan, and you have you have the Eden, then you have the Nar, and the Nar is watering the Gan. Eden is the level of Chachma. Shinikra Eden, which is called Eden, Yetza Nar, so a river is coming out. In other words, Lashon Hamshacha, you have Chachma Satera. You have Eden, which is Chachma. Chachma now is flowing as Hagan, into Gan. What's Gan? Gan is B'Gematria 53. Shem Gan Starim, there are 53 Starim in the Torah. So the Chachma comes into Torah, Shein Pirish v'Taim HaMitzvos, that the Torah is the explanation of mitzvahs. So Torah comes, so Chachma comes into Torah, and through the Chachma coming into Torah, you have now Gan Eden Elyon and Gan Eden Tachtin, until you have, through Seder Shtalshlus, the Chachmas of Torah come down into this world. The Shadish of the Torah over here is from the Chachma, Shinikra Reishis HaHishtalshlus, which is called the beginning of Seder Shtalshlus. The Eine Orach Klal, and has no erech, has no comparison, L'gabe Mehusev Atzmus Yisparech, to Atzmus of Hashem, to the Atzmus, Shulamaylam Hishtalshlus, which is higher than Hishtalshlus. Just explain just a few more lines, then I'll explain. Zah mitin ish, and this is what the Rabbi says, that if a man is going to give, ish is lashon gvuras v'tzitzumim. Man comes from the Kashkas of Hashem ish machamis. Ish, whenever it says ish, that shows on gvura. In order for the Chachmas Atera to come into this world, it has to be done through a lot of contractions, a lot of tzimtzumim. I'll explain. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining as follows. Mayim Rabbim is the Tiras HaParnasa. The Tiras HaParnasa, what's the right way to think about it is to make sure, by davening, to contemplate, to realize that everything you have, all the hashpah is only really a ziv, and you want the real deal. So therefore, im yitin ish is kol hein basic. If Hashem is going to give you, or even if Hashem will tell you that I'm going to give you the chachmas ha-Torah, I'm going to give you the highest level of Torah, you're going to laugh at it. Why? Because you want the real deal. And then the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, which we don't have time now, that the only way you can really bring down the atzmus, because we said Torah, that's only ha'ara. How do you bring down the atzmus into this world? Is dafka through ma'aseh mitzvahs. Okay. Fine.
Let me ask you.